what's up guys, Justin Johnson here. In this video, I'm going to get you very familiar with the Resonator guitar. I'm going to introduce you to all the different types of Resonator guitars. Also, you know, if you're in the market for a Resonator guitar and you're kind of scratching your head wondering what type do I get, there's a lot of different kinds of Resonators. A lot of them look different. There's wooden bodied ones, there's metal bodied ones, there's different cones. I'm going to demystify all of that for you so you can be confident about moving forward and owning a Resonator guitar and playing one. Okay, so all Resonators have one thing in common, and that's this baby right here. They all have resonator cones, and that's kind of like the main functional component of the Resonator guitar. You can see the resonator cone kind of fits right here. It's under this cover right here, and the bridge sits on the top of this cone, and when you pluck a string, the bridge vibrates. It vibrates this cone, and it produces sound just like a speaker. Notice how this looks just like a speaker cone. That's basically what it does. And so when the Resonator was invented back in the 20s, the whole idea was that it's going to be louder than the acoustic guitar. You know, back in the day, there was no electric guitar. There was no way to amplify the sound of a guitar. And guitarists and bands, you know, think about it. They had like big bands back in the day. And they had reed instruments like the saxophone, brass instruments like trumpet. You're having to compete at volume level with these really loud instruments on the guitar. So that's kind of like the problem the Resonator was trying to solve. But one of the side effects of this invention, this new guitar design, is that it just sounds really cool. So it has all these metallic overtones. It sounds nothing like, you know, just a regular wooden traditional acoustic guitar. Plus, it has this like bite to it. It almost sounds to me like, you know, an acoustic guitar with like natural overdrive or natural distortion. When you really dig into it, it kind of starts breaking up like an amplifier a little bit. So it's just got this attitude, you know, and that's one of my favorite things about the Resonator guitar. But okay, let me break down the different types of Resonator guitars. And this is what's really going to help you get comfortable with the concept of buying a Resonator or owning one. And also it's going to help you differentiate between certain tones that you might like. Like, why do I like this Resonator better than this one? You know, when I first started playing, I was kind of in the dark about that. Once I started learning more about the different types of Resonators, I started realizing like, oh, that's the reason I like that. I always kind of gravitate towards this design. So let me break it down for you. Okay, so the most basic way to differentiate between Resonator designs is whether it's a single cone or a tricone. This right here is a single cone. It has one big cone sitting right there under that cover. And this baby right here is a tricone. It has 3 cones under this cover, and they're connected together with the bridge, which is shaped like a capital T. You can kind of see right here on the cover over the bridge where that sits. But it essentially works in the same way that a single cone does, only now you've got 3 smaller cones instead of that one larger cone. It still has that classic Resonator sound, but the tonal qualities are a little bit different. And I'm going to go into the difference between the sounds of all of these Resonators here in just a minute. So I'll give you some sound examples of those too so you can kind of compare them head to head. So the tricone is kind of known as the, you know, the mother of all Resonators. Sort of has this esteem around it. It's a more complex design. It's a more complicated design. Because of that, the tricone can be a little harder sometimes to maintain. If you start to hear a buzz or a rattle somewhere in the Resonator, you're a little more prone to getting that kind of thing with a tricone because you've got 3 times the cones, three times the maintenance basically. But don't let that dissuade you from getting into a tricone. One of the things that's awesome about them is that because they have 3 cones, it takes a little longer for the you know, the sound to develop in there, so you get a little bit softer attack. You don't get so much of a banjo quality with a tricone. Also, you get a little bit more sustain to the notes, and you get a little more complex and smooth sound overall. You know, instead of just one cone making that sound, you get three of them. So all of those little, you know, nuances of harmonics and overtones, they're all interacting. And what happens is they just create this softer, more complex, more vocal kind of sound. Again, less banjo-y, more smooth. That's what I like to think of with the tricone. All right, now let's go back to the single cones. So this is a single cone resonator, and there's two types of single cone resonators. There's a biscuit style and a spider style. This is what's known as a biscuit style single cone resonator. If I were to take this cover off right here so that you could see the resonator cone inside, this is what it would look like. It's a cone. It's basically a cone exactly like this. It is just flat on both sides, kind of angling down, and it's shooting like a speaker into the guitar. On top of that cone, there's a wooden, basically like a wooden biscuit. It looks kind of like a biscuit, and I guess that's why they call them that. But that just sits on the cone. The strings go over that cone, and the pressure of the strings push down. When you pluck a string, it vibrates that biscuit, and that's what excites that kind of speaker that's shooting into your guitar. Now, if you notice too, it does shoot into the guitar with a biscuit style cone. And then the sound comes out of the either F holes, or in this case, you have the sound holes like this lattice style sound hole. So you get this really nice tone. It's a simple design. There's not a lot that can go wrong with a biscuit style single cone. It's kind of like the quintessential resonator design for me. It's great for blues music. It's great for just about anything. It's very maintenance free. You know, it's an easy kind of resonator to own. And a lot of times, because it's a simple design, a lot of times the biscuit style resonators are going to be more affordable. You get a nice full sound with a biscuit style cone. They're really loud, they're really punchy and assertive. They have a little bit less sustain than the other types of resonators, and they sound a little bit more plucky. You can kind of hear that assertive pluckiness, and that can be a great thing when you're trying to cut through a band, or if you're playing lead and you're playing against like another rhythm guitarist or something like that. You want something to really kind of punch through, pluck through. That's great for that. But again, it does have a little bit less sustain than the other types of resonators when you're coming down to like playing long slide lines, like something like this. See how the note kind of died down? But there is one more type of single cone resonator. That's this baby right here. This is the spider resonator. It is a single cone resonator, but unlike the biscuit resonator, this one has a totally different design. So if I were to take this cover off right here, you'd see this really cool looking spider web design, and that's kind of like a bracing system for the cone. So instead of the cone just like shooting into the guitar like a biscuit style resonator, this cone has kind of like a W shape. And because of this spiderweb bracing system, you actually screw the cone to the bracing system, and it causes the sound to project out of the guitar instead of into the guitar. So you get a much more forward sound. You get this sound where the cone is like projecting at you. Check this out. These babies just bark. I love them. Generally, when you see a spider resonator, not always, but generally it's going to have a wooden body. And I'm going to compare wooden versus metal bodies a little later in this video. But there is a special magic that I think happens when you have a spider cone and a wooden body. And that's why you see a lot of the spider cones with wooden bodies. because you're getting this nice punchy sound from the cone, you kind of want this mellow, wooden, organic sound to sort of temper that. But the two just kind of go together in this really organic way that gives you a nice sort of mellow attack that accompanies this bright, almost nasally projection from the spider cone. Spider cones are really popular with bluegrass music. Almost always when you see someone playing, like a bluegrass resonator or folk resonator, they're almost always playing a spider cone resonator with a wooden body. It's become very synonymous with that sound. One of the other things that is almost always the case when you see like a bluegrass player playing a resonator is that they almost always play them like this. They play them in their lap. And if you notice this guitar right here, it does not have a round neck. And that leads me to one of the other big differentiations between different types of resonators. You have square neck resonators and you have round neck resonators. And if you're ever buying a resonator guitar online, absolutely make sure that you are paying attention to whether it's round neck or square neck. Sometimes you can see a picture of a resonator and it looks just like this. You can't even tell if it's got a round neck or a square neck. Square necks cannot be fretted. The action is very high. It's about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch on a lot of resonators because they're not designed to be fretted. They're just designed to be played like a lap steel, basically. Another dead giveaway that it's a square neck, if you're ever looking at pictures, again, if you're trying to order online, is that the tuners are facing forward. They're not facing back. That's so you can tune it while it's on your lap right here. Generally, you're not supposed to play these like a guitar, but you can, like I just did. And honestly, you can be a lot more assertive and aggressive with your slide playing if you've got really high action. And so I can really dig in with my left hand. I can do things with my left hand that I can't do with low action when I'm playing a guitar like this where it has that really high action. The only sacrifice you're making is that you will not be able to fret notes. So be really aware of that. Once you sort of learn the different styles of resonators, it's really important to pay attention to whether it's a square neck or a round neck. I can't stress that enough, especially if you're buying something online. Okay, so the last thing that I really want to talk about when it comes to different types of resonators, you should definitely know this, is how the body type or how the substance that the body is made of affects the tone. So generally you can have a wood-bodied resonator or a metal-bodied resonator. Metal-bodied resonators can be steel, they can be brass, they can be aluminum. I find that brass is a nice balance between getting a lot of sustain from the guitar, and it's a little bit stronger and more mellow than both steel and aluminum. I really like brass as a body type. Plus it just looks cool. But wooden-bodied resonators, they impart a specific tone. They're a little more mellow, they're a little less punchy and a little less assertive, but that can be really nice if that's the kind of sound you're going for. So I'm going to compare two different guitars for you, and I want you to listen to the difference between these two guitars I'm about to play. They're going to be basically the exact same guitar. The only difference is that one of them is going to be wooden and one of them is going to be brass. So I'm going to start off on the wooden guitar right here. This is a single cone biscuit style resonator, and just listen to these two playing examples. Alright, so both of those guitars are almost exactly the same. They have the same cone. It's a biscuit. It's a single cone. They've got the same general body style. They both have F-holes. They have the same strings. They were built by the same company. They came out of the same factory. The The only thing that's different about those two guitars really is wood versus metal. And this is a brass body. It's a nickel-plated brass body. And you can tell the metal body, it just has more, it has more like punch. It bites a little harder. You can hear more metal. You can hear more reverberation going on inside the body. I feel like there's more sustain and there's a little more attitude that comes from a metal-bodied resonator. If you like sort of a mellow attack, the wooden resonator, the wooden-bodied resonator, it kind of softens the attack. It gives you a little bit more warmth, but it shaves off a lot of the presence. And so when it comes down to it, my personal preference when it's a biscuit style resonator guitar, like a single cone biscuit style, I like a metal bodied a little better than a wooden bodied, just because I really like that assertive nature and I like the volume, and I just like the way they look too. There's something about that, but there really is a sound to the single cone biscuit style resonator with a metal body. I just love it. So one thing that is very personal to me that I do every time I get a resonator guitar is I make sure that there's a magnetic pickup on it. This guitar has one built in, but if I'm playing a resonator guitar that doesn't have a built-in magnetic pickup, I always put on one of my signature low-profile humbucker pickups. I design them to be exactly what I want out of a pickup, and I'll slide it right under the strings if I need one, and it'll give me that tone that I want. I always use electric guitar strings on my resonators. I will always do that first thing when I get a resonator guitar. I put a pickup on it, a magnetic pickup, and I put on a heavy gauge set of electric guitar strings. The reason I do this is because I like to blend the acoustic tone of the resonator, like what I'm getting from the microphone right here, with the sound that's coming from the magnetic pickup, which sounds nice and bassy, it sounds fat, and it's got a lot of sustain. So if I'm playing like a single cone biscuit style resonator like this one, which doesn't have a lot of sustain, I can blend it with the magnetic pickup and it gives me all the sustain I'm looking for. Okay, in this next section, I'm going to play the same song on each one of these different resonator guitars so that you can really hear what the tonal differences are between each one. So each of these guitars is built by the same company. I strung them up with the exact same strings. They're in the exact same tuning. I'm going to use the same microphone on all of these different guitars, and I'm going to basically mix them all the same so that you can really identify and hear the tonal differences between each of these types of resonator guitars. Before I do that though, I want to encourage you that if you like this lesson, please subscribe to my channel here. And also if you want more guitar lessons from me, I've got a brand new guitar lesson platform at justinjohnsonguitar.com. I've got a huge library of video lessons for all skill levels, from total beginners to advanced players. Please check it out. It's at justinjohnsonguitar.com. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. You rock.
Bye.